So if you are mindful, that means you're paying attention to what's going on. I'm mindful of your time. I want to be mindful of your emotional conditions. I know you're very fragile. I want to be mindful of that. Please be mindful of my reputation. When you talk about me, remember that I have a reputation for being family friendly. So be mindful of that, please. Thank you. A blue zone is a place in the world where there is a relatively high percentage of centenarians, meaning people who live over the age of 100. And generally speaking, these are areas where people tend to live longer than in other places. And they've been studied for the lifestyle habits, the dietary sort of habits that people have in those places. In other words, what is it that makes them tend to live longer in those places? And it's interesting. So we're going to go over an article about blue zones. So you might learn some things about longevity. It's a topic I'm fascinated in, living longer. And we're also going to do a word bank. So we'll be hopping over here, and I will be writing down terms and phrases from the article. It's a great way to learn English. It's a great way to learn new words. Why is that? Because it's contextual. When you learn in context, you learn better. You remember how it's used. You're more likely to be able to use whatever you learned more easily in your daily life. Okay? So what we're going to do is go through this. We're going to go through the whole article. Blue zones. The article is from HoustonMethodist.org. And the name of the article is 9 Reasons People in Blue Zones Live Longer, Healthier Lives. Okay? The article is from August 16th, 2022, and the author is Katie McCallum. So, here we go. We all want to live a long, healthy life. That's a bit of an assumption. Okay, not everyone does, but I do. Wouldn't it be great if there was some sort of cheat sheet to help make that happen? Make it happen. Why did I add the word that? Dan Buettner, a National Geographic explorer, and his team of demographers. A demographer, I think, is someone who studies populations and the sort of age groups and ethnicities, things like that. Scientists and anthropologists might have thought as much when they began studying regions of the world where people live the longest. The team, which coined the term blue zones, has shared what they learned about the world's longest lived communities in journal articles, talks, and books. Okay, so here's our first word. We're going to talk about the word coined. A coin? Like a dollar? What is this? Okay, coin or coined. And essentially what it means, and you may be able to guess from the context, is to invent a term, to create a word that may be useful, that then maybe after that people start using. They don't have to start using it, but when we're in a sentence and we want to invent a new word because we feel like we need it, so to coin a term, happiness-ishly, which is not a word, but I'm now inventing that longer word because I think it suits what I want to say, right? So you add to coin a term, to coin a word, to signal, hey, I am making up a word now, just so you know. In the context of this article, it's the team which coined the term blue zones. So it's saying where this word comes from. Blue zones did not exist before the team created this term, right? And now we have blue zones. So we know where the source is, essentially. The source of the origin of this term, blue zones, which again is the way to describe populations, areas of the world where populations tend to live longer. Okay? What are blue zones? Blue zones are areas of the world where people live the longest, consistently reaching age 100. In contrast, the average life expectancy in the US is currently 77 years, according to the CDC. Life expectancy, because it's so specific, I'm not going to write this one down. The life expectancy is the average that people generally tend to live. Not that many people don't live longer, but it's averaging everybody. So all causes of death, which includes obviously things like car accidents and parachuting accidents, skydiving accidents, right? Buettner and his team identified 5 such blue zones. And it's not just about longer lives. It's about healthier ones too, says Caitlin McAfee, a wellness dietitian at Houston Methodist. People living in blue zones are also much less likely to suffer from chronic illnesses. All right, so I'm going to focus here on chronic because that's something that comes up pretty often. Let's talk about chronic and then its partner word, acute. Chronic and acute. If you're experiencing chronic pain, that means it lasts a long time and maybe indefinite, and the cause is probably deep, maybe some kind of illness. It may be psychosomatic, which means it's caused by some unconscious sort of issues that need to be worked out. And acute is sudden, immediate, right? So when we're talking about health stuff, a chronic illness would be something like diabetes, would be something like hypertension, high blood pressure, would be something like heart disease, would be something like kidney stones. This sort of thing is this long-term health issue that is not this sudden problem that happens and then goes away. Getting the flu, or maybe having a sudden illness that you recover from and then it's gone. That sort of thing we could describe as acute, right? Acute symptoms are, ooh, ow, or I have a sore throat, or things like that that are short in duration and usually symptoms of some short duration thing, whether it's an illness or an injury, right? These are acute things. Whereas chronic symptoms are the cause, or rather the result of, some deeper problem that may be either incurable or requires just long-term treatment but can generally not be cured. Maybe we can deal with it but not actually fix it, or maybe it just takes many years to get through this illness, right? So that's chronic and acute. We do use these words in other ways too. Maybe chronic issues that a company has, right? It's not an acute issue. This is a chronic leadership failure. A chronic leadership failure suggests that there are deep systemic issues in this company when it comes to how leadership is done. And this is a chronic leadership failure, a deep issue that has been going on perhaps for many, many years. Okay, that's enviable given that 6 in 10 adults in the US have at least one chronic health condition, including diabetes, heart disease, cancer, dementia, and 4 in 10 have 2 or more conditions. Whoa. That's a lot. I don't know why I'm laughing. That's horrible. Why am I laughing? Stop laughing, Lukepriddy. The 5 blue zones are located in Sardinia, Italy, home to the world's longest lived men, not man. Okinawa, Japan, home to the world's longest lived women. Loma Linda, California, Seventh-day Adventist community that outlives the average American by a decade. Ikaria, Greece, tiny island community with significantly reduced rates of common chronic illnesses. Nicoya, Costa Rica, area where people are more than twice as likely as Americans to reach 90 years of age. These are the original blue zones, says McAfee. Since this time, though, the blue zone principles have been used to create healthier communities across the U.S., including other parts of California, Oregon, Minnesota, and our Texas neighbor, Fort Worth. Maybe that's near where Methodist is. Did we read that? Okay. Fort Worth is a city. What do the blue zones teach us about healthy aging? The goal of studying the 5 blue zones was to uncover commonalities that might explain why people from these regions live longer lives without the chronic disease rates we see elsewhere, explains McAfee. Okay, to uncover commonalities, to uncover issues. Now, I'm sure you can guess what this means, but let's just write this down as a really useful word to know. Uncover. And I write this down because the meaning is obviously to take the cover off of something, but it's more often used figuratively than literally. So if there's a figurative meaning, figuratively and literally. If it's figurative, it's not actually doing that thing physically, but it is still using the concept to explain something. So to uncover a box is to literally take the top off of the box, take the lid off of the box. But to uncover a mystery, to uncover the cause of something, to uncover the reasons for something, to uncover the commonalities. So the commonalities are, what do these blue zones have in common? The noun form of that is commonality. Okay, fine, I'll write that down too. I don't really want to focus on commonality though. If you insist, Kathy, then I will. So the common usage is the figurative usage, which is to uncover problems, to uncover crime rings, to uncover issues, to uncover maybe something that was hidden before in the culture, all sorts of things. And it is much less often used literally to remove the cover from some container or something like that. So the literal meaning is removing the lid from the box. Okay. Buettner's team identified 9 healthy principles called the Power 9. They believe to be at the core of Blue Zone living. What are your principles? There's a great book called Principles by Ray Dalio, and principles are things to live by, deep and important beliefs that you hold, that you use as guides for your life. These are things that you do not break. These are things that give your life structure. These are things that give your life meaning. These are sort of the rules for yourself that you make, that you look at. So we're not talking about laws here. We're not talking about rules here. The reason they're called principles and not laws or something like that is that they come from within. And maybe some people have no principles. That means they'll do anything, right? Clout chasers have no principles. They'll do anything to get famous. But if you have some often core principles, some deep principles, then people may trust you. You may be reliable. There are things that you believe in that you have come up with yourself, which are important to you, that help you guide yourself forward throughout your life. That's a great book by Ray Dalio called Principles for Life and Work. It's a really great book. Now, just as a small point here, I always remember it this way. Some people ask, principal, what about the principal of a school? Same spelling, same pronunciation. The pronunciation of the leader of the school is exactly the same as this, but there's an interesting spelling point here. Principal, the principal of my school, the principal is your pal. Pal is like a friend, right? So if you want to remember the spelling of this, principal is not how you say it, but how you spell it. He is your P-A-L at the end, your pal. He's the principal and he is your pal. Got that? P-A-L. But then P-L-E is the other meaning. Okay? Number 1. Making movement a natural part of your day. Crap. I gotta do that more. I need a treadmill. I do. I mean, I move around. I do squats and stuff. I need to move more. Knowing your sense of purpose. Okay. Having a sense of purpose, where we're going in life. Prioritizing stress relief. I love the word prioritize. You probably know it, but let's just write it down because it's such a useful word. Prioritize is a verb, is an action. A priority is the noun. To prioritize is to say, this is more important than that. So if I prioritize family time, that is the most important time for me. If I prioritize work, that is the most important thing for me, right? To prioritize things is to essentially put them in the correct order for you. What is more important to you? Eating until you're about 80% full. So don't stuff yourself with every meal, essentially. Eating a largely plant-based diet. So not eating too much meat. Plant-based, a lot of vegetables, a lot of kale and salad and avocados and nuts and things like that instead of eating tons and tons of meat. Drinking alcohol in moderation. Now notice it's not saying no alcohol. It's saying drinking alcohol in moderation. If I'm not mistaken, all of the communities in the blue zones do have alcohol. I think it might be sake in the Okinawan community. In California, I think it might be red wine. And so having some alcohol in those blue zone communities is apparently fine and maybe even a part of health. But the key is moderation. If you do things with moderation, and the other form of the word is moderate. Moderate is the adjective form. Just be moderate with it. Moderation is the noun form. Moderation means you do it in a balanced way. You don't overdo it. You find the middle. I believe Aristotle called this the golden mean, the sort of golden middle where it's not too much, it's not too little. It's okay to drink alcohol. It's okay to do drugs, to do hard drugs. Just don't do too many. No, maybe some things are better not to do at all. I think probably doing meth is one of those things that moderation is 0. Maybe, probably, yeah. That was a stupid joke. Okay, connecting with your community, having people around you who you trust, who you can talk to make your life more meaningful. Maybe that means grandparents taking care of grandkids, big families getting together. 8, putting family first. So putting something first is another way to say prioritize. If something is important to you, then you prioritize it. If something is at the top of the list, then you put it first. So you put first. Very common phrase. Very common. So anytime you want to say this is my top priority, when I prioritize things, it's my number one priority. We could say number one priority. We could say top priority, but we also say put it first. I always put family first. I put myself first. That's my top priority is me. So you put it first, you prioritize it, okay? Putting family, whether biological or chosen, first. So it's saying, okay, maybe you hate your real family, so maybe you get another one. And then put them first. Choosing social circles that support healthy behaviors. So maybe not friends who like to use squirrel suits. Squirrel suits are those suits where people are flying through the air. It's extremely dangerous. The chance of smashing into a cliff is high. So maybe squirrel suit buddies maybe doesn't qualify here because you're likely to die at a young age. Maybe motorcycle buddies, maybe not here because the death rate is very high. Maybe meth friends, not the best choice. That tends not to end very well. But friends who like to do active things, friends who like to socialize and talk, friends, a book club, friends who like to get together and cook together and bake together and hike together and make waffles together and look at people in squirrel suits together. Oh, look, people in squirrel suits. Glad we're not in squirrel suits. That is a healthy behavior, right? That is good behavior. So, all right. Of course, 9 principles is a lot to incorporate right away. Fortunately, McAfee has... I've been saying McAfee and McAfee. I think both are okay. Of course, 9 principles is a lot to incorporate right away. Fortunately, McAfee has some advice on how to realistically implement them. So implement is a great word, by the way. Let's write down implement. implement. And then if we wanted to make it another form, we would say ATION. Crazy. Implementation. So to implement something is to not just make it, put it there. It's to put it in place and use it, right? You may have a law, but if nobody follows the law, if nobody enforces the law, then maybe it's not really implemented. To implement the rule is to actually put it in use, to live by something, to actually enforce something, right? We have decided on the new rule for the school, which is no, you cannot chew gum in the hallways, but it won't be implemented until next year. So the rule is decided. There's the rule, no gum in the hallways, but the implementation starts next year. So that's when it's being put into practice. So you implement life changes. You decide, I'm going to exercise every day, but deciding that isn't implementing it. Implementing it is doing it, right? And this is often used in, for example, people who do web design or developers. You have code that you're working on, and when you actually take that code and publish it, actually make it go live for users to interact with, you have implemented it. We've implemented a few security changes that are going to make for an overall more secure user experience. Great. So you were working on that for 3 months. It's all there, but it's not there and implemented until it's actually part of the app or website or whatever. Okay? A lot of different uses for implement. Very, very useful word. Okay. Tips for incorporating Blue Zone principles into your life. I think movement, eating wisely, and stress management are the areas we collectively struggle with most here in the US, says McAfee. Collectively means all of us generally. Indeed, though surveys show the majority of adults want to improve their healthy habits, more than 90% typically give up on a diet after the first 7 months. 70% cancel gym memberships after just 2 years, and more than 30% report experiencing symptoms of anxiety and depression. Wow, that's pretty rough. When it comes to successfully making lifestyle changes that last, McAfee emphasizes that it's important to start small. So I love the phrase "when it comes to," and I think that's definitely worth keeping in mind. When it comes to, that's when you're going to talk about something. When it comes to a healthy lifestyle, when it comes to your hobbies, when it comes to your family, when it comes to implementing these security changes to our website, when it comes to doing a live podcast, when it comes to going through a bunch of words from an article. If I want to focus on that, I can often begin with "when it comes to." It's extremely useful. I love this phrase. I use it all the time as a way to say, hey, now we're going to focus on this. So when it comes to learning words, it's a great idea to learn them in context. Learning them from articles is great because you can see them in real sentences. Learning them in isolation, in lists, memorizing them in flashcards, not necessarily the best way to learn when it comes to really using vocabulary. Okay, so start small, which means to, don't overwhelm yourself. Just take little steps first. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. Now, overnight is probably an exaggeration. If people say overnight, usually what they mean is rapidly. That's all. It's not literally over one night. It's usually just saying suddenly, quickly, right? It's not really focusing on the night. Says McAfee, start by incorporating just one or two of these principles, being realistic about what's achievable for you. For instance, if you know you're not moving enough, McAfee says that you don't have to begin by trying to commit to strenuous exercise 5 times per week. Instead, your first goal might be walking 15 minutes every day, building up from there. So building up means increasing. I'm building up from 15 minutes a day. After a week, I was at 30 minutes a day. Now I'm at an hour a day. She also adds that it's important to find your focus and create a plan. So make a plan, find your focus or what you're going to concentrate on. Pick a principle you want to work on, then ask yourself what you enjoy doing, what you have access to, when you can make time for it, and what's realistic for you. That's actually really good advice, I think. For building habits, you don't want to go crazy because you're likely to give up. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew because you're likely to give up. But if you take little bites and build habits slowly over time, you're more likely to be successful in the long run. It It's easier to stick with something when you have a foundation set for accomplishing it. Wow, I agree with that completely. Here are some healthy living ideas to get you started. Walk, swim, garden, or find some other form of activity, physical activity you enjoy. Find an activity buddy. Set reminders to stand up and move every hour. Increase the amount of vegetables on your plate each meal. Try eating plant-based once a week. Make time for stress relief. Practice mindfulness and positivity self-talk. Take steps to improve your sleep quality. Play a brain game. Disconnect from technology when with family and friends. Plan dedicated time to spend with your loved ones. Volunteer in your community. Join a local group like a walking club, gardening group, or faith-based organization. Well, I don't want to go over any of those specific words except for one, and that is mindfulness. Mindful. Again, with these articles, you don't want to try to learn every single word you don't know. You just want to pick, 10 to 15 at the most, not that many, right? Because you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So if you are mindful, that means you're paying attention to what's going on. I'm mindful of your time. I want to be mindful of your emotional conditions. I know you're very fragile. I want to be mindful of that. Please be mindful of my reputation. When you talk about me, remember that I have a reputation for being family-friendly. So be mindful of that, please. Thank you. So to just be aware of something, to be paying attention to that. But mindfulness is focusing on, more broadly, specifically, a way of calming yourself that could be an actual type of meditation. So mindfulness meditation is a type of meditation where you sit there and you simply observe stuff that's going on around you. And you notice your body, and you notice the feelings and sensations. Oh, there's an eye. There's a hair growing out from under my eye. What the heck is going on? That's very strange. It's annoying. So mindfulness is generally connected to health in that way. All right? We're pretty much at the end here. I don't want to write down any more words because we have quite a lot. So if you want to focus on prevention, it starts with making little changes for yourself. McAfee adds, saying it differently each time. We've seen communities where these health-promoting behaviors have made a difference, so why not try to adopt a couple of these and see if they work for you too? Wow, very nice, very good. This is a great article. If you want to find the article, again, it is called 9 Reasons People in Blue Zones Live Longer, Healthier Lives. And it is by Houston Methodist. Houston is in Texas. Now let's quickly review the words and phrases we talked about. Coin, coined, to invent a new word. Implement, implementation, to put something into practice and use it. Uncover, usually used figuratively, not literally, to mean to open something so that others can see it. Uncover a crime ring. I don't know why I keep thinking of that example. Uncover a conspiracy, things like that. Core principles or principles, things that you believe in that guide your life. Principal, as in the leader of a school, the head of a school. PAL, the phrase when it comes to focus on one specific topic. Prioritize, the verb, to move something up or make it more important than other things. Priority, the noun, the thing that you're talking about. And similarly, to put it first. The thing that is at the top of your priority list is what you put first. Chronic and acute. Chronic is over the long term, something that may never go away, usually about illness or symptoms or a condition that you have, often in your body or your mind. Acute is more sudden. It may come and go very quickly. Moderation, meaning to live in balance, to have healthy, generally healthy habits, not too much of one or the other. And the adjective form of that is moderate. We talked about being mindful, being aware of things. That's a more general word, but then mindfulness is a little more specific, often emphasizing mental health specifically, and could be talking about a type of meditation. Commonalities, those are things that are common. What are the commonalities between these two things? What are the things that they have in common? So that's it. We talked about quite a few things. If you have any questions about these, please let me know. Words any of the phrases we talked about, whatever it may be. I'm happy to help if I can. Again, check out the article if you'd like to do that. This is a great way to learn words and phrases. Do it once a day on your own. Look up the meanings in something like the free dictionary. It is, again, a great way to start using what you learned because you see it in context, okay? I would appreciate if you want to support the channel, hit the like button and subscribe. You can also get a free English course to improve your spoken English. That course is called Natural English Conversations. Again, it is free and you can get that in the link in the description.